Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is the lady herself. Now that you have seen the pictures, you can put a face to the lioness. My name is Wairimo, or Nimo, or YY, depending on which part of my life you were in. Wairimo is my official name, and that is the name I would like to be addressed by most of the time. The reason I chose to do this recording was, one, to either face the fear and hear what I sound like on audio, but also to speak to you about why I set up Lady Boss. I have lived in England now close to 14 years and worked in mental health for over 10 years. I noticed that the Black and ethnic minority communities were either receiving a disservice in mental health or were not coming into the services because of stigma. The issue of abuse, which is very close to my heart, still causes a lot of challenges for workers. It is either swept under the carpet or never discussed because it is deemed either acceptable or we do not take our business out of the house. My own story, I guess you will have to wait to read the book. But the reality is, unless we open this Pandora box and start having a conversation, it will mean that we'll be raising the next generation in fear, without knowledge, and will probably end up in the same tick box exercise that we find in mental health. I abhor any form of abuse, whether male or female. My concern was that we do not have a group that either is a man bashing session or a female bashing session. So it is important that we are inclusive. I am a post-colonial baby and we have evolved. Kenya as a nation evolved, we traveled, we got educated, then came the women's rights movement. We did not even integrate what was of great value to our own communities. We assimilated and now we have a generation that is in between. The reality is, you are who you are because of where you came from. And that is what my granddad said to me. If you forget who you are and where you came from, then you amount to nothing. I am Kikuyu by tribe and very proud of it. Sadly, I had to learn about my customs in my older age when I started trying to identify who I was in a country that defined me as Black or ethnic minority. The reality is, our women are suffering. It is even sadder when a 13-year-old tells you that it is okay to be hit by a man because it's how he shows he loves you. We then go to the other extreme where we bash men or we bash women. That is not the intention of Lady Boss. There are two key things. Mental well-being and mental health are two very different things. Mental well-being is where you are reflecting and looking at yourself and making sure that your well-being is being taken care of. Mental health has a psychiatric or psychological input, and that is a whole different ballgame. The reality is this: we need to have this conversation. We need to share our stories. We need to stop being afraid. We need to be able to tell people what we've gone through, how we got through, coach and mentor to ensure that the next generation of men and women are raised up solidly integrated with their identity and the knowledge that comes from either university or life. I don't have my own daughter, but I have Jade, who is borrowed. And under no circumstances would I expect Jade to come home with a black eye. She knows very well that it is unacceptable. She has been taught the right way. Her values are Christian. She works hard. She's going to be a doctor. But there are things that they will not teach her in school. It is therefore my responsibility and her mom to ensure that we pass on the right things, to ensure that she has the self-esteem, the strength to stand as a woman of reckoning. We have the challenges of women's rights, and I dare to be a little bit controversial. The reason we are fighting for rights is because we are not being allowed to be who we are supposed to be. Let us separate roles and responsibilities to look at you as a person. Are you well? Do you make the right decisions? Are you able to make decisions to contribute well to your family, to the community? It's not about making the 7 million figure salary. The reality is not all of us will get there. Some of us may, some of us may not. Some of us are so service oriented, we will be grateful for the first million. But the reality is this. I have gone through hell and back in the last 3 years. But the thing that kept me sane was my faith. And of course, a very solid foundation in family. My father, who is my best friend, speaks to me every 2 days. My brother, my sisters are always available to give me advice. They surround me like a shield, even if I'm in a separate country. But I also have a very close friend who knows me so well that by the tone of my voice, she will know something is wrong. I have learned to identify when I am going into self-pity parties or when I'm feeling depressed. Yes, I do have a debilitating disease, but the reality is it is not going to stop me from being who I am meant to be. I want you to think on this statement. Opportunity comes with adversity. Nothing is ever birthed without adversity. Each one of us has a purpose. I have 2 great friends who are single dads, and I'm extremely proud of them. They've done it. They have teenagers. They sit, they do homework. Do we then weigh their success based on whether they raised their children right, or whether they married the right woman, or that their daughters are going to grow up and go to school and know that they're well taken care of? On the other hand, there is an area that bothers me, that there are men who are going through domestic violence. For an African woman, that truly disturbed me. And I remember having a conversation with my dad, who is probably going to 80, and his response was one that shocked me because he's old school. Why should a man be beaten? But you do not know what happens behind closed doors. The reality is we have the education, we have the tools, but our foundational principles are wrong. We need to reflect. We need to go back to what we truly are as Black women, as Black men, as white women, as green women, Jamaican men, and look at our values. Respect. When did my 13-year-old start whining her neck in for me? That does not happen. But the reality is the world is evolving. As it evolves, there is media. What are you watching? Who are you listening to? The questions are many, but the key thing with Lady Boss is integrity. You are who you say you are. You are going to be a coach to pass on wisdom to the next generation. Do it as a service. I believe God pays back those who do service. If you are helping people for money, I truly believe you will not make it. But if you are truly doing something and somebody else grows out of it, it is a little seed that God then waters and your influence increases. I love Lady Boss. I love looking at what's been put in there. The idea is for us to go from strength to strength, to change how we think, to look at results, to stop accepting that this is the way it is, and changing the world to be a better place. Your world could be your house. Your world could be the universe. I don't know. With the internet now, you have the whole world at your feet. But I look back and remember something my younger sister said to me. If you have a dream, go for it. If I change the lives of 100 women, then I do know that I have done something in my life. I am available. You can call me. You can talk to me. Officially, I go on charging from 1st of August. But the reality is this. You are not put on this earth for yourself, and neither what you have gone through about yourself. God works through people, not through huge thunder and lightning, but it's about you looking at your life, taking stock, and passing on the baton to the next generation. We all have a purpose and a nation. I have friends from Jamaica. I have friends from Trinidad. I have friends in the States. I cannot reach some of those people. But in sharing your stories, in sharing your lessons, you may not even share on the page as the individual. It could be a question. But the reality is, my goal is that we start having this conversation, start looking at having workshops, to have brainstorming sessions, but with congruence of wanting to help our people, because we are in a rut. And until we start shaking that rut, the garbage cannot come out. I really pray you have a blessed weekend. One day I shall work through this whole business of webinars and putting videos with my face. In the meantime, be satisfied that I have done something I have never done in my life. And I pray that God continues to increase you, bless you, and your families. Take care.